Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining in right after lunch. So, in recent times, there has been a lot of changes that has happened in the entire talent and the way talent is managed. It has become a boardroom point of discussion, be it retention, be it acquiring more talent, converting from offer to employees. There's been a lot of discussions around that. In today's session, as she was mentioning, we're going to touch a little bit on how do you make this new, changed, hybrid, remote, digital onboarding and bringing talent into the organization, more interactive and more fruitful as far as the candidates are concerned. We have a very interesting panel today. We've got HR technology experts. We've got core TA expertise coming in from different industry. So I hope this will cover the different aspects of it. But before we get started, I would love to have the panel give a very quick intro and what makes it different for you.
Okay. Right. I'm Varun. I head HR for Xiaomi. That's Xiaomi, not Xiaomi, not whatever. So if you've seen Jerry Maguire the movie and you have Tom Cruise shouting out with Cuba Gooding Jr., show me the money is just, a take on that. Show me the money, and, that's how you go for it. But yeah, I've been in the HR space for about 20 years now, with Xiaomi for over 3.5 years, heading HR. Really excited to be here. Onboarding, talent acquisition, all of these are topics that we brainstorm about, and how do we, continuously improve these. That's why I'm really excited to be here and learn from everybody in the audience, and of course, the panel here.
Thanks, Varun. Mohit, please.
Arun, thank you very much for having me here. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mohit. I've spent over 18 years in the talent acquisition space. Been very fortunate to work with different setups, regions, and domains. I'm with KPMG India, where I spearhead the recruiting efforts for the firm. Thank you very much, and look forward to this discussion.
Hi, this is VIKAS. I work for HCL Technologies. I manage their HR technology and talent supply chain center of excellence. Looking forward to this discussion. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. So I think before we kind of deep dive into what kind of solutions and how do you make it different for the different world, it might be interesting to do a little recap from your own different industries and from your own different perspectives of how this has changed. Maybe some of those unique challenges or stories that you might want to share in terms of what happened in your own respective roles, and how does that manifest in the whole journey, candidate journey from pre-offer to offer to onboarding. I'll start with Vikas because you represent an organization which is doing this in thousands, right? And I think that'd be an interesting look at it.
Yeah, so I think it hit all of us without any warning, right? Back in 2019, when suddenly BCP kicked in and said that offices has to be shut down and everybody has to work from home, we realized in recruiting to say, while I can still recruit, but how would I onboard, right? And when we had a call with onboarding team and said that everything has to go online, and then we started listing down to say, what are the challenges we might have? It's not that we've solved all of that, but still there's a challenge. Challenge is like, how do I ensure that first day he gets his machine, right? With 30% renege, people who accept the offer never turn up. How do you ensure that proactively you ship the machine to him, and if he doesn't turn up, how would you recover the asset? Challenges like, this loneliness, and I was reading the data, 16% employees say that loneliness is the biggest problem. I joined the company, I never get to meet anybody, and I don't know how to start. Because when you have a physical joining, you get to meet somebody in the company, you shake hand, you exchange ideas, and you have some connection. When I'm virtually joining, somebody's looking at me with a postal size picture of me on a screen. I'm anxious, I'm nervous, guy never get to know that. And then for a couple of days, I'm struggling to start, and I have some questions which might be a silly question, but because I'm joining a new company, those are important questions for me to know, right? How should I approach people? And it might sound a stupid question, but I still have it in my head, and somebody has to answer that for me. So these are a couple of challenges, and the large point was onboarding it's not an event, right? We all of us know it has to be done like a program. It's a journey. So when we were designing it, the whole virtual onboarding process, we said that how should I ensure that it's an engaging process? It makes him productive, preferably from day one. And the guy belongs. He feels that belongingness to the organization. And I think these are the three tenets on which we thought that if we have to create some virtual experience, it has to be around these three tenets.
Right, and I think you touched upon a very interesting point about how do a new person connect with the organization. And if you're not taking enough steps up front before the organization, before the person joins the organization, I think it is going to be counterproductive for sure. The connect, the loneliness aspect that you spoke about, I think that's I think every organization is going through that. But from your standpoint, Mo, do you see this, this change from the perspective of how you are hiring for some of those very senior profiles, some of those key roles that you are trying to fill in the leadership side?
Yeah, sure. So before we dwell into the challenges or the gaps or areas of opportunity for us to improve on, I think as a community, we should acknowledge that we have moved the needle, right? What was there 24 months back? And I remember getting into panel discussions like this where we were discussing about how we're going to ensure delivery of laptops on joining, right? From now, where we're talking about how could we issue the laptop, how could we deliver a laptop before somebody's joining, bring your own device, and so on and so forth, right? I think we demonstrated, the HR community demonstrated a high level of agility and resilience that resulted into a good improvement, right? Having said this, we still have a long way to go. Are we ready for a next complex crisis or a change? Answer is no, and we have an area where we need to work on. Some of the open items could be, and linked to what you asked, Arun, is offer and continue to be bothering us. In pockets, in skills, we have been having challenges. We also have burnouts. We have, I think one of the things which we unconsciously did, right, as HR professionals in the last 24 months is we just picked up technology solutions which were available, and in the race of picking up technology solutions, we started bringing in a lot of them, right? For example, we brought in a solution to predict somebody is going to join or not, a technology solution to connect to status on the laptop delivery and so on and so forth, right? But I think the element which we have missed and something which we need to probably could have focused more is how these are integrated well, right? Is it really a holistic approach to look at a technology platform? I think that's one. The other element is, which I'm sure you would acknowledge as well, is the fact that it's an ever-changing and the fast-paced change in expectations from candidates and from our stakeholders as well, right? The business stakeholders. There is a shift already from a good experience to a wow experience. So it's like a good plus X is equal to wow. And I think we're still grappling on what is that X? What is that something we need to do different to get into the wow stage? So there's a long way to go, but I think these are some of the areas which I believe as a community we need to focus on.
Wow experience. Varun, from your perspective, I know your industry, you have a lot of external partners, you work through an ecosystem, you manage internal folks. So it's a very complex ecosystem that you run, and we all know the whole semiconductor industry went through its own challenges in the beginning. So do you think your case was different, or was there anything interesting that came out as popped up as challenges for you?
So I think at a company side, we were able to address some of those challenges very seamlessly. So for example, the countrywide lockdown, it was announced in March. But in February itself, we were already trying out hybrid and virtual onboarding and, having all of our onboarding speakers, new hire welcome things. Those sessions, we were already running those on Zoom from office, right? So we were like, okay, if in the event a lockdown happens, and we had started prepping for it in February. So when the actual lockdown happened, we did not foresee the full lockdown, right? Logistics became a very big challenge. Just shipping out laptops, like Vikas mentioned, to candidates became an extremely big challenge. A lot of people don't have their personal laptops, I mean, you're working with one company, the company issues one laptop to you on your last day, you submit it, and on Monday you collect a new laptop from your new employer. Fortunately, what happened was they had their own laptops from their previous companies. So, we had to, of course, scrub them clean. We had to make sure that, we are not, infringing on somebody's official data on another company's laptop. So if somebody said that, for example, KPMG, I'm sure you have a lot of proprietary systems and a lot of proprietary data. So we were like, okay, we are not going to touch your laptop. You'll probably just have to work with us on your mobile device, which was a subpar experience, definitely. And I think in the last 2 years, our organization actually doubled its headcount, right? So from about 750 people to about 1,500 odd people today. All of these people have joined us remotely, and only now this year is when people have come into office. So that need for belonging, that affinity, that culture, which is unique to Xiaomi, that was something that was extremely difficult to recreate in a virtual environment. The other thing was what Mohit mentioned, burnout. But this is where burnout was more for my HR team. Right, we would begin a day at 9 a.m. and you had the talent acquisition team, which was just back to back. I mean, in office, we don't realize this. Maybe just walking from one meeting room to the other is that mental break that you get. But on a Zoom call, back to back, you're switching, dropping off one call and immediately beginning the other call. That was definitely a case of major burnout for the talent acquisition team, for the operations team. Most heavily during that entire phase, the people getting taxed the most were the HR business partners, because they were continuously tasked with, you have to engage, you have to meet this person, you have to make sure that person is not overwhelmed or not getting burnt out. But the HR team itself was also getting overwhelmed with a lot of things. So these were definitely some of the challenges. I mean, at an org side, we were fairly well sorted. We were able to adapt to the virtual onboarding and all of those things fairly seamlessly. But it was on the candidate side, that's where some of those challenges definitely did come up.
Sure, I think I'd love to hear from the audience if you would want to share any story or anything that you felt it was a great big challenge. We were able to sort it out. Something that the audience would want to contribute? Yes. Yeah, the mic is covered.
Hi, my name is Preeti, and I'm an HR director for a company which is online travel agency. So, it hit the worst, right? But the work was doubled because we had to process all the refunds, no-shows, and money. That part of industry is very small. So if you have 100 people taking calls, there'll be only 20 who do refunds. But the game changed, and we had to move all 100 to this team, and they had no clue. So instead of letting them go, we hired, and instead we wanted to hire online everything. Feb, we let go people who were working from home because of GDPR compliances. And we had to hire them back and more of them and let them do work from home. So this was some very different perspective change in the industry of call centers or contact centers, what we call, that they were not allowing work from home at all. And then in just a month's time, everything flipped and everybody was work from home. So I thought that this was a big, big change that COVID got, a positive change, I should say, because many of them doing night shifts, traveling for 1 hour, 2 hours, they saved all that. So that was a very big experience and good experience, eye-opener for all of us, I think.
In fact, I think 2020 and 2021 were those contrasting years that you can think of in the most wildest possible combination. 2020, nobody's hiring. 2021, everybody's hiring. And that's where we are leading into. Now, what can we do about some of these challenges that we learned, we fixed? As Mohit was saying, we did go up a notch. We did improve in the way we are doing that candidate journey, from the early stages to the final stage. Now, we've been hearing a lot about different perspectives being applied. Is it a talent-first approach that we should be taking, or is it a digital-first approach that we should be considering, or is it an outcome-based one? And I think organizations of different size, nature, they adapted in different ways. Some of them a combination, some of them took a different view on this. But by and large, we see that this has been the trend. You look at talent getting digital or outcome-focused, depending upon what kind of industry that you're operating in, right? So, Mohit, I would like to sort of ask you in terms of when you're really looking at this journey part of it, and it is hybrid and making that interactive, that wow factor that you talked about, what are the things that comes to your mind, and which stream you would pick as something that would give the best solution in the end for all parties?
So now we're getting into, you can hear me, right? Now we're getting into the solution mode. I think it's a good framework, Arun, you spoke about. Talent first, outcome, and digital first, right? I think for me, applying design principles to this, which means your talent at the center, whatever solution you build, be it tech or outside technology, should be around that, and it has to be outcome-based performance indicators, right? And I think that's one of the elements also to the previous question you asked on what is the missing element was setting some right performance indicators. But I think very important now, going back to the digital solution side of it, right? I think industry has moved. I'm sure you would have heard in many of other sessions as well today. It's an era of co-creation, right? And I'm sharing my own experience working with Arun and team a few years back, where right from the concept itself to design to architecture, MVP, and then taking to life. This entire experience of, was it 12 weeks or so, right? I think that was phenomenal. And that is where we realized that instead of a plug and play, it's very important to co-create it and rather take the accountability to yourself, right? That's one. Second is, going back to what I previously said, is area of opportunity for us to improve. It's very important for us to look at end-to-end, and onboarding is not limited to day one. It's actually right from the person clears the interview process till the way to the onboarding. We need to look at one solution cutting across all these steps. In case if the technology solution's not available in a way that it's like an enterprise model, then possibly ensure there's the right integration, right? What has also happened is with the pace of change, right? And we are already speaking about 4-day working, right? There are a lot of changes which are ahead of us. What we need to ensure is any technology we bring in, a solution, has to be with a base of that will remain fixed. The only tweaking we'll do is basis some of the external changes, right? And the last but not least, as what Arun you mentioned, is the element of outcome-based performance indicator, right? So when we work together, we applied a framework called E-Cube. That's like experience, engagement, and efficiency. So you use a technology solution to improve engagement. That leads to better experience, and then comes efficiency naturally come on board, yeah.
Yeah, I think fundamentally, Mohit, what you're suggesting is no matter what we look at it, the starting point, of course, is talent. And depending upon how the world is evolving and the way talent needs are evolving, build technology or processes or wrappers in such a way that it suits the ever-changing world. From your perspective, Vikas, how do you see this whole solution coming through?
Well, so just as a small thing, I've been talking to Arun for the preparation of this session for a couple of online sessions we had, and yesterday I bumped into him in the lobby, and he took a while to recognize, and he said that, hey, I was expecting a shorter guy. That's a disadvantage, right? Because we have been talking to each other for like months now, but he only got to see me here, just my face on his screen. And that is what happens. When you're doing online something, you hardly get to see whether the guy, what is he thinking, what is he feeling, is he nervous, is he anxious? So we might deploy a technology, but I think the first impression, like, one of the things you're talking about in the theme of the session is very important. Half of the people, or most of the people perhaps do not know us, but the moment they walked into the room, in the first 5 seconds, they started putting us into some category, right? That he's a male, he's a tall, and a good sense of fashion style or bad sense of fashion style or whatever, but they are forming an impression about us. Same goes for candidate. If he comes on day one, whatever technology you may have, if he doesn't have a right experience, the first impression is like, it's no point of return. If you get it wrong, that's it. And there's a data to say, and that's why pre-boarding is very important, and that's where the technologies like, what you do, Hydro does, is very important. And that's why I said that don't look at onboarding as an event or as a noun. Look at it as a verb, right? You have to ensure that a candidate travels that journey. If you give him a terrible recruiting experience, during the recruiting, no matter how zazzy your onboarding is, it's not going to work. Or vice versa, right? You had a great recruiting experience and everyone was so polite and considerate, but the moment it comes to onboarding stage and he had a bad experience, that is again not going to work. And people who do not have a right experience, 80% of them are most likely to leave within a year, right? So therefore, I think it's not about digital talent or outcome. You got to do all three, and you got to balance out. Otherwise, you're not going to achieve what you wish to, because candidate, when he's joining a new organization, he's all excited. He has a lot of aspirations and dreams and whatnot. And in first 10 days, and that's why, it should not, typically what happens is guy is onboarded, SAP code or employee code created, laptop given, job is done. But especially in online onboarding, it takes a village. It's not a responsibility of a recruiting team or HR team. It literally takes a village to have a right onboarding and get the guy up to the speed. And that's why you need to have a larger consensus with your business, with your cross-functional team, get them on board to say, this is how the program is going to run. These are your responsibility. This is what I own. This is what you own. And then make it happen.
Technology probably could be an enabler in this, but fundamentally the process needs to be really strong for this. And I'll take a couple of examples of, because you mentioned about us and when we were working with your team, we found very simple use cases where candidates were looking for help or information. Very simple things like, I want to change my date of joining. I want to rediscuss some of the role-related things. And when we studied the data initially, we had tickets that were open for close to 2 weeks. That's like 10 business days. And I think within a span of almost 6 months, we were able to bring it down to under 2 days, which was only possible because of what I think Vikas said. There was a very clear-cut mandate in terms of how this needs to be handled on the ground, irrespective of what technology or how that data is going to come to you. The onus on closing issues and creating that wow first impression, I think very well said, Vikas, on that. And Varun, from your experience, you literally doubled in headcount, right? So anything that you would like to suggest as, that you implemented differently, and any thoughts on that, talent, digital?
No, I think the first thing that we've always stayed true to is, making sure that the candidate is always at the center. You can't use technology to completely disconnect the human angle to it, right? At the end of the day, you could have a lot of automation in place, but people are still looking to connect with the person on the other side. So when we think about onboarding, or in fact any process, whether it's building a bot or anything of that sort, again, the idea is, okay, there may be some FAQs which the bot can take up, but ultimately, the bot can't be an excuse for the HR person to go missing. And that is something that, is always been a key driver for us whenever we think about any process, not just onboarding. And I think in the first half of this year, it's been an absolute bloodbath, right? Just people have left in thousands. So I think that onboarding wow experience is now really the full life cycle experience, because nobody's really willing to settle for a subpar employment experience. So I think that thought process that, the TA team or the business team used to have at the very beginning, which is like onboarding sahi ho gaya, and then, you have to, I think there are multiple studies, some which say 30 days, some which say 90 days is that cliff. if you're sorted in the first 90 days, then you have this person with you, for a really long time. I think that 90-day period is now till the last working day, because every candidate or every employee expects that wow, personalized journey. So you have to now think of not just onboarding, but the full journey of an employee, right? From possibly when they hit the apply button to a job, all the way till the very end. And that's something that we've always tried to keep at the center of, using technology as an enabler and not as, a shield. And there will be some parts which will still require a very high degree of human intervention and a lot of face time. And others which can very easily be, automated or leveraged through technology, so that as a individual, you save more time for those personalized human interactions. And that's always been, the overarching thought process that we've operated with. As a company, we've always, tried, and we still try to maintain more in-office working, which is where, unlike a lot of companies which are doing a hybrid model or are talking about, a remote working, fully remote kind of working environment, we are insisting that, our folks come to office, because it's that trade-off that you make between, being efficient and being effective, right? So when we talk about brainstorming and ideation and making sure my message is landing in the first go about being effective, it has to happen in person. Being efficient as an individual, so where I have to clear a backlog of maybe 1 week's emails, that's when I'll probably take a work from home, and that's what we're trying to do. Encourage people to come in more to office, so that the collaboration is definitely working. The need for belonging is definitely getting created, and you feel for Xiaomi and Xiaomi feels for you, and you actually see that in action. Because otherwise, on video calls, a lot of times people just tend to switch off the camera. That's like the easiest, thing to do. And not just candidates, even our employees, right? Existing employees tend to do that a lot. So one of the things that we made mandatory was cameras need to be switched on at all times. I remember in one of the all hands that we were having, right? We had the full company, Manu, our MD at that time, me, the entire leadership team, and backgrounds were visible. And in fact, my daughter, she jumped into my lap, 2.5-year-old, and just opened her mouth wide into the camera of my laptop. And I thought the entire company, 1,200 odd people, got a full view of her dental. And it was okay. It was absolutely okay. Everybody had a good laugh about it. And that's what we were trying to tell people, that it's okay to keep your cameras on. You have a family, we understand. We are the ones who are infringing into your, personal space, and you're working from home, and you're inviting us into your home, and it's absolutely okay. We don't really care about what background do you have, but we definitely want to see your face in that conversation. So we had to issue a diktat, right? Cameras need to be switched on at all times. Another big thing that we did was there will be a mandatory kickoff meeting for every team at 9:15 or 9:30, but anytime before 10. So you basically are engaging with your team, individuals in the team, and everybody sees everybody, and you're just talking about what your plan is going to be like at a very high level for the day. And then a wrap-up call around 5:30 or 6. Again, at a team level, everybody connects, and you just talk about what you've accomplished or what were challenges that you faced. I think these 2 or 3 things that we did really helped create that connection within the team. New hires who were getting onboarded, in this kind of a team environment, saw that it's very normal. Cameras are on, people are talking about their day, and people are connecting with each other at least 2 times formally, at the beginning and at the end of the day, and as many times cross teams and otherwise, But these were some of the very simple things that we did, just to make sure that you're not lost. you're not, at home alone thinking, what am I doing, where am I, and all of those things.
Sure, Vivek. I think fundamentally you're talking about more in-person time. With that, I want to leave it to the audience for any additional questions that you might have for the panel. Anything that you would like to add to this? Okay, there is.
We are actually out of time, but
Take just
Just
one
one
we
question.
just take one question. Yes, of course.
Hi, myself Prachi. I want to ask, how can we automate this process of induction, which is an experience of a candidate from day 1 till 90? I know you said it lasts till the end of the tenure, but still, I'm asking how we can automate this process.
No, I think it's very important for any new employee to know the company policies, code of conduct, how to behave, what to do, what not to do. But it is also important that you should not overload him with a lot, right? Because if you send him, here is the PPT or here is the, online course you have to go through just to know about my, 300 policies, he'll get overwhelmed. So I think that's why it is important for us to make it a little more fun for him. Bite-sized training, gamify it, give him small wins, let him learn certain policy, and once he achieves that milestone, give him something, some goodies or some branded, your company branded stuff, which will make it engaging for him to say that, okay, it's fun. It's not that something, 8 hours course is what I have to learn. So I think if online induction has to be done, and this whole, like Varun said, the whole video approach, we need to be a little careful there as well, because any video call which is expanding more than 30 minutes, the fatigueness starts setting in. And that's the Microsoft Teams data. They have done the research across all their customers and said that 30 minutes is the threshold. So any effective meeting is of 30 minutes. So any training course, any video which you want to send him, just ensure that it is not more than 30 minutes. So I think the overall overarching message is that make it fun, because adults also like to have fun. And as long as you can make it fun and engaging, I'm sure they'll learn and they'll get ready consuming all the data. And other thing is start sending beforehand. So if you're starting next week, start shipping the all the reading material, videos, etc. 1 week prior, so that he gets hang of it.